Tanya of today for the 8th of Cheshvan, Wednesday the 8th of Cheshvan, October 17, 2018, page 71 in the Chayenu. So we learned yesterday, spoke about the concept of the perplexing concept in Zohar versus a statement in the Arizal writings about different levels of the Mishnah, the Gemara, the Talmud, where they are, to what levels they are connected. We concluded that Mikra Chumash is 5 books of Torah are connected with the world of Asiya, the lowest world, and it makes a difference in halacha where if you need to stop your learning, if you say you need to stop your learning if time of Shema came, if you should stop or not. So B'Shem Baruch I said you stop for if you're reading Chumash you should stop, but if you are reading Mishnah you shouldn't stop, and that's what brought all discussion, which one is higher than which. But the conclusion was that everything that has to do in everything that is in Torah is really connected with the tree of life. It's connected with the world of Atzilus. But the discussion was, once it's vested, each level is being vested in a different world. For example, Chumash, we said the 5 books of Torah are vested in the world of Asiya, the lowest world, the world of action. So we'll probably touch this subject a little bit again today. It says in the summary, the purpose of our Torah study and performance of mitzvahs is to redeem and elevate the godly sparks that have fallen into our world. Therefore, our Torah study is supposed to be in the deliberation and argumentation of the law, thus releasing the good energy back to its source. That's really the primary aspect of learning Torah and doing mitzvahs, is revealing the good, sorting the good from the bad, elevating the good to its back to its source. When Malchus of Atzilus, which is the lowest level within the world of Atzilus, kingship, within the world of emanation, is vested in Klipat Noga, is vested in the husk and shell of Noga, which is a mixture of good and bad, or has the potential of being uplifted, or can bring someone down, in order to extract and refine the sparks that fell within with the sin of Adam. It's all connected with the original sin of Adam. As well as the 288 sparks that fell within the breaking of the vessels. There's a teaching of the Alter Rebbe in Torah or Likutei Torah. It says over there that when Jews went to Mitzrayim, they were able to redeem 200 sparks. So similarly, it says over here, there's 288 sparks. So living Mitzrayim, they just needed to elevate another 88. So they already dealt with elevating Mitzrayim to its ultimate, as much as they could have gotten, they got already out of Mitzrayim, and therefore there is a commandment in Torah not to go back to Mitzrayim, because there is no reason for a Jew to be in Mitzrayim, because it was already taken care of by the Jews spending 210 years in Egypt. So we're dealing with Rapach, which is a numerical value of 288, and according to the Alter Rebbe, now we're dealing with only the 88. The problem is that they can be each one can be a master spark that has a lot of little ones that are connected with it. As well as the 288 sparks that fell with the breaking of the vessels. What is the concept of the breaking of the vessel? We discussed it many times, but in short, it's where there's a world of Tohu called the world of chaos, and in the world of Tohu, there's a lot of light, very little vessels. They were able to contain it. It causes the vessel to break. And because of this breakage, this godly energies went into a place of impurity and a place of concealment, a place of darkness. And our job is to elevate back these sparks. Azai, גם המלכות דאצילוס נקרא בשם עץ הדעת, טוב ורע, לגבי זעיר אנפין דאצילוס. Malchus of Atzilus too is then referred to as the tree of knowledge, good and evil, relative to Zeir Anpin of Atzilus. So a level that is lower than Zeir Anpin. Zeir Anpin is the emotional faculties of Atzilus, of the world of emanation. The sixth level, Chesed, Gevurah, Tiferes, Netzach, Hod Yesod, and the last one is Malchus. So Malchus in comparison to Zeir Anpin is considered a tree of knowledge, good and evil. To show you the gap, the big difference between the two. One is a good and evil, and one is tree of life. It's just one difference between Zeir Anpin and Malchus. Because the last level of Zeir Anpin is Yesod. After Yesod comes Malchus, comes the kingship. But since there's the breakage of the vessels, so Malchus of Atzilus is now feeding the Klippa, feeding the husk and shell, feeding the other side. Since it's feeding the other side, it's connected also with the tree of knowledge, good and bad, good and evil. Malchus of Atzilus too is then referred to as the tree of knowledge of good and evil, relative to Zeir Anpin of Atzilus. She'eno yored sham v'nikra etz chaim. Now, why is Malchus of Atzilus called tree of knowledge, good and evil, and Zeir Anpin of Atzilus, the small face of Atzilus, the emotional faculties of Atzilus, are not called a tree of knowledge, good and evil? Because they are not descending, they're not going down to the Klippas. They're not feeding the Klippas. Malchus is feeding the Klippas. Since he goes down there, he is called a tree of knowledge, good and evil. She'eno yored sham v'nikra etz chaim, which does not descend there, and which is referred to as the tree of life. Ve'inei islabshus hamalchus b'klippas nego soid golus hashchina. The investiture of the Sephira of Malchus in Klippas Noiga is the Kabbalistic principle of the exile of the Shechina. It says the fact that Malchus is now, kingship is now vested in Klippas Noiga, that's the Kabbalistic principle of the exile of the Shechina. If you're thinking about, you are against your will feeding a power or energy that you don't want to give to, an entity that you don't want to give to, that's exile. It's like paying a bill that you're not happy to pay. Some bills people are happy to pay. They're excited, they got a good service, they enjoyed the service, they enjoyed the product. They're happy to spend their money on it. They feel hard-earned money, I spend it, I'm happy. Over here, Malchus or Atzilus has to feed the Klippas, which are not interested in giving them, but it has to give them. So it's called the tree of knowledge, good and evil. Zeir Anpin is not giving, so therefore it's called the tree of life. So this investiture of the Klippa of Malchus in Klippat Noga is the Kabbalistic principle of the exile of the Shechina. Asher shalat Adam v'Adam, whereby man rules over man to his detriment. We'll soon see what it means. In Epistle 25 above, the Alter Rebbe quotes the exposition of this verse in Sefer HaGilgulim. During the time of exile, the evil man, which referring to the Klippa, rules over the sacred man. Evil dominating good. In other words, the holy side of the universe. At this time, the divine presence is in a state of exile within the universe. However, this temporary dominion of evil is to his ultimate detriment, meaning the evil is going to suffer from this domination. The fact that evil is dominating the good, it's for its own detriment, for the detriment of evil. For its underlying intent is that the sparks of holiness that are embedded within the evil be extracted and elevated. So it's like trying to give an example for this. Imagine someone is teasing somebody, teasing him, and by teasing him one day, he woke up the beast, he woke up the bear, and the guy paid the price for teasing him. But because of paying the price, he learned his lesson and he became a better person. So we see that type of a scenario, it was elevated, it became better. But what happened if by teasing somebody ultimately he paid the price and he's suffering from it? So that's the detriment of evil. But over here, the detriment of evil is that the good is elevating is elevating any good that existed within the evil. So there's evil. If we took an example of a person, everyone has good and bad. So by engaging with another person, let's say the evil person is engaging with a good person, the good person doesn't want to deal with the evil. But since he keeps on engaging, so one day this engagement creates a battle, and because of this battle, the evil loses any kind of good qualities, being taken by the good person, and is leaving him alone with nothing. Is leaving him alone just with his negative character traits, or negative attributes, or negative anything that is negative. He stay there, and he's taking anything out of him. Let's say he takes him to court, and he empties him out, and he's no longer going to disturb anybody. So over here, evil is dominating good, but ultimately it's detriment because good is stronger than evil, even though because it's called a temporary dominion. So the good is going to take over it's going to take over bad, and take anything good that is there. It's going to elevate and take it out. That's why it says it's for its detriment. For its underlying intent is that the sparks of holiness that are embedded within evil be extracted and elevated. It's clear. It's understood.
I feel like a lot of times it's, I guess because we're in this state, it's easier for the evil to pull the good down instead of the good to pull the evil up.
Right, but ultimately it says, it's a good point, because it says that a Jew can get its nurturing from the other side for a short period of time, or for a certain time, but one day he's going to wake up and is going to, he has to get from a pure source, he has to get from a holy source. So he's going to, one day he's going to kick it and elevate it. So even though he's being dragged for a little bit, but once resistance kicks in, or is being built up, he's going to elevate everything back up. So the Alter Rebbe will now answer another question, which he himself had posed earlier. The Raya Mehemna, we said, is the faithful shepherd, but it's the part of the Zohar that is authored by Moshe Rabbeinu. The Raya Mehemna had stated that so long as the bipolar influence of the tree of knowledge, right? We're calling bipolar because it has these two ways of either good or bad, of both good and evil, is dominant in the world. Torah scholars who are likened to the Shabbos and festivals are supported only by the unlettered weekday brethren, meaning the non-learned people, the Amaris, the ignoramus. So they're being supported by the ignoramus, whose food is sometimes pure but sometimes not, because you don't know how they get their sustenance. A regular business guy is let's say paying for the electricity of the shul, he's paying for electricity of a yeshiva, he's paying for the food of the yeshiva. We don't know how he made his earnings. It could be that he made it in a pure way, could be that he didn't. Whose food is sometimes pure but sometimes not. This is why the scholars engage in the study of the correspondingly bipolar laws, Isur v'Heter. Why a Torah scholar has to learn these laws of what is prohibited and what is permitted? He knows it for himself, but he keeps on engaging in these laws because he's involved with these people. So he doesn't have to find out, this is kosher, this is fine, this is not. And the like. Concerning this statement, the Alter Rebbe asked above, even though the sages in the second temple times tilled their own foods, They had their own fields, their own vineyards. Did they not mainly study the very same laws of Isur Ve'eter? In other words, you're telling me that the only reason why they needed to learn this law is because of they were sustained by the ignoramus. But in the time of the Second Temple, the sages had everything they wanted. They were wealthy. They had vineyards and fields. So why did they learn these laws? It wasn't necessary because they already know it. They don't have a suspicion that one of their own will do anything that is prohibited. They didn't have to deal with these laws. So why did they learn these laws? You said why they shouldn't, even though they don't have that concern, because we said these laws are connected with the tree of knowledge of Isur Ve'eter, prohibited and permitted, or good and evil. In page 73 on top, and this is the meaning of the statement in Ra'am Emna: while the tree of good and evil dominates the world, these sages who are likened to the Shabbos and festivals have nothing except what is given to them by those who are called unsophisticated ones. דהיינו בזמן גולוס השכינה שמשפז החיצונים שהם בקליפת נגע שהערב רב יין כמשם. This means at the time of the exile of the Shechina, which grants life force to the chitzonim, to the outer forces that belong in the realm of klipas nega, from which the mixed multitude derive their life force. And from whose distilled essence the Torah scholars are nourished during the exile. And then at this time, at this time, the main spiritual task of man and the main purpose of being engaged in Torah and the commandments is to discumber and elevate the sparks, as is known from the teachings of the Arizal, Rabbi Yitzchak Luria of blessed memory. So for this reason, study involves the liberation and argumentation on the laws of Isur Ve'eter, impurity and purity. What is the whole reason why they're learning it? In order to discumber the permitted and the pure from the forbidden and the impure, by means of the liberation argumentation. In other words, this is how you extract the good out of the bad, by the learning of these laws. By means of deliberation argumentation on the law, with wisdom, understanding and knowledge, with all three intellective faculties of the soul that clarify the law.
You mentioned the sparks. Obviously, we learned earlier 200 sparks that have been elevated. There's a master spark, many sparks. Are we also elevating the sparks that have already been elevated? Like we taking them to a higher level on an individual basis?
No. Once it's elevated, it's elevated. We're dealing with what is left for us to deal with. It says that when the Jewish people left Mitzrayim, left Egypt, the Gemara uses this language that they left it like a sieve or a net that doesn't have any fish in there anymore, trying to describe that we took everything out of there. They even borrowed gold and silver and gowns, everything they could. They emptied out Mitzrayim, physically, spiritually, whatever was needed was taken care of. For example, this could be, in the same vein, we can ask the question, if somebody is reincarnated to the world, most of the neshamas are recycled neshamas, so to speak, and you're here to elevate whatever you didn't elevate in the previous times. In other words, you're not getting a new mission, you're dealing with something that needed to be dealt with before. How do we know that a person is not going to be not doing what he's supposed to do? Maybe it can be captured again, he can mess it up again. How do we know he's going to elevate? So we know that from heaven they're only giving you the job that needs to be done, and making sure that you will have already the challenges that are fitting for this specific elevations that needs to be done. So if Hashem places us or puts us in a certain place in the world or a certain job, we're encountering a certain people, it's for a reason that that's the type of sparks that we need to take care of. For it is known the Torah derives from Chokhmah, from wisdom, hence the sparks of holiness hidden in the legal question can be extracted and elevated only through Chokhmah. So sometimes the elevation is being done through eating something. Sometimes the elevation is being done through Chokhmah, through wisdom. Yeah, they had to debate and go through arguments, questioning back and forth, and by this questioning they're able to elevate it. Specifically, the supernal Chokhmah of Atzilus, the highest level within the world of Atzilus, is Chokhmah, which is vested in Malchus of Atzilus. Malchus of Atzilus takes everything from the levels that are higher than that. So Torah Shebal Peh, this being the Kabbalistic principle of the Oral Torah. Oral Torah, you see a lot of wisdom. Sages are debating back and forth. Besod Abba Yasad Barta, according to the Kabbalistic principle by which the father, Chokhmah, father is always Chokhmah in Kabbalah, Chokhmah of Atzilus, beget, founded the daughter Malchus of Atzilus. So Malchus of Atzilus needed Chokhmah of Atzilus to be created. Amelubeshes Malchus de Yetzirah, and this ultimately, which in turn is vested in Malchus of Yetzirah. וסוד, סוד המשניות וברייתות המלובשות בקליפת נוגה שכנגד עולם היצירה. This accords with the Kabbalistic principle of the Mishnayos and the Braitot or the Braitos that are vested in the Klipat Noga, which corresponds to the world of Yetzirah. ששם מתחיל בחינת הדעת הרע שבנוגה. For there, in the world of Yetzirah, there begins the knowledge of good and evil, for there begins the evil inherent in Noga. For the Klipat Noga in the world of Yetzirah is equally good and evil. So the world of Yetzirah, the Klippa is over there is 50-50. Klippas Noga in the world of Yetzirah is equally good and evil. But that's where it starts. So in Chokhmah of Atzilus, obviously it's godliness, purity. In Malchus of Atzilus, it's still holiness. In Bria, it's still Kedusha, it's still sanctity. Once it hits Yetzirah, then we have equally good and evil. Specifically about Klipat Noga itself, this husk and shell that is called Noga. The meaning of the word Noga, by the way, it means a little bit of light, a ray of light. That's what it means. V'abraitot, and a variant reading of the above, and the braitot that are vested in the Klipat Noga, which corresponds to the world of Asiya. For there begins the evil inherent in Noga. For the Klipat Noga of Asiya is mostly evil and minimally good. In general, the world of Atzilus is only a godliness, sanctity. The world of Bria is mostly good and a little bit of bad. The world of Yetzirah is 50-50, and the world of Asiya is mostly bad and a little bit of good. So similarly, it says over here, Klipat Noga itself in the world of Yetzirah is equally good and evil, the world of formation. And when it comes to this world, Olam Asiya, the world of action, there now the evil is kicking, the evil is dominating more, and there's mostly evil and minimally good. Kanei de Marizal, the above is known from the teachings of Rabbi Yitzchak Luria of blessed memory. Okay, that's the Tanya for today.